guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range with the Polish P83. This is a 9x18 chambered handgun. It holds 8 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the pipe for a total of 9 rounds. And it was used by the Polish military and police and is still in limited use today by the Polish police and some military units, although it's been replaced in military service by another handgun. The pistol looks very much like a Russian Makarov. I probably would say it drew a lot of its inspiration from that particular handgun. But despite the similarities, there are also some differences, which we'll delve into a little bit later in this video. The handgun is available right now as an alternative to the Makarov. If you're trying to find a Makarov and you can't find one, because they kind of come in spurts and sometimes they're all over the place. Other times, like right now, they're getting kind of hard to find and the prices are going up. This, again, would be a good alternative. J&G Sales has these pistols for $219, which includes a holster and 2 magazines. Makes it somewhat of an attractive option for those of you that might be looking for a concealed carry handgun but don't want to spend $500, $600, $700, $800 or even $1,000 in some of the more high-priced options out there. So we're going to take a closer look at this little handgun this afternoon, share some thoughts on it with you, and do a little bit of comparison to it and the Makarov, which it again draws some design inspirations from. Locks open, last shot fired. Let's take a closer look. When you pick your pistol up from J&G Sales, the gun will come like this. In a military style flap holster. It's leather. Has a little pull tab on it. You pull this open, and it differs from the Makarov holsters here in that you can pull that flap away and access the handgun and draw it out very easily. The Makarov holsters are a little bit harder to get the guns back into. They also feature a leather pull strap that you grab a hold of and pull, and it raises the gun up out of the holster so you can then get a hold of it. So you have your pistol in there, you'll have a magazine in it, have a spare magazine here for the handgun. And then also, besides your pistol, there is a little cleaning rod inside there in its own internal pouch that comes out, and it has a little T-handle on it. So there's your little cleaning rod, kind of a neat little design. Fold that away, stick it back in its little internal pouch. The Makarovs will have an external cleaning rod on their military flap holsters. If you wanted to use this for concealed carry, finding a modern, say, Kydex holster for it would be a bit challenging. You would probably have to make one yourself, and there's plenty of how to do it yourself videos out there on YouTube that would show you how to make a holster for the P83. Or you could just send it, to a custom holster maker and have one made. I'm fortunate enough to have one here local to me, here in Northwest Indiana, Contact Concealment. You've seen me talk about them here before on the show. I also have one of their holsters on right now with my P01 compact. So there are options out there. If you want to carry the 9x18, do I think it's a good caliber for self-defense? Absolutely. It's more powerful than a .380, not quite as powerful as a 9mm. And Hornady makes, for example, they make ammunition for it. I think it's their critical defense line, so you can actually get modern ammunition from at least Hornady. I don't know if anybody else offers it, but I've used and shot their critical defense ammunition in my Macs, and it works fine and gives good performance. So if you're looking for that option, that low-cost option for a concealed carry gun, certainly the P83 would possibly fit that bill for you guys. Let's take a look at the Makarov magazine as it compares to the P83's magazine. Now they look very similar. You can see right through both of them. They look like possibly they would be compatible, but they're not. So if you take a look at the P83's magazine, which is right here, and the Makarov magazine, you'll notice these little locking dimples on the back of the magazine. You'll notice that when they're lined up, when it locks in the bottom of the gun, that the P83 is holding that round slightly higher than the Makarov's magazine. Also, it has a bump on it right here, the lower half of the magazine, that the Makarov does not have, and that would keep you from inserting this into a Makarov, so they are not compatible. Now, the Makarov magazine will actually fit into the P83. So I can put it in, I can even lock it in place. But if I go to chamber around, you probably won't be able to see in there, it's just not quite holding the round high enough. Again, the magazine's slightly shorter, so it's not going to pick that round up out of the magazine. Locks into place, but, you know, no bueno, doesn't work. So anyway, just wanted to be clear on that because I know a lot of you guys are going to ask that question. Is there any compatibility between the magazines? Let's take a look at some of the controls and the ergonomics of the P83. You'll notice this rather peculiar looking hammer. Some folks, I think late Boy Scout, said that he had some pretty nasty hammer bite with his. I haven't experienced that. It's going to be a little bit different for every shooter depending on how much meat you have here on the back of your hands. I have bony, scrawny little hands. Well, I can't say scrawny. I mean, they're gigantic. I can palm a basketball pretty easily, but they're really bony, not too fleshy, so I don't have a problem with the hammer bite. But it does have quite the hooked hammer there on the rear end. It has standard military style sights, which is pretty much very tiny, hard to pick up sights in low light, and I'm not aware of any aftermarket sight options that are available for the gun. The front sight is actually milled into the slide, the rear is dovetailed. So you're going to be stuck with these sights if you do decide to carry one. Like the Mac, it has a hammer drop safety, so the gun is in safe right now, which is kind of the opposite of how our USM9 works, for example. So you'll notice that when I drop the hammer, it's holding the trigger to the rear. That only happens when you drop the hammer from the cocked position. So if I go ahead and take the gun off safe and then cock it and then drop the hammer using the hammer drop here, see how it holds that trigger back? All right, so then when you put it back into fire, it pops that trigger forward. All right. It does have a slide lock on it, so it does lock open last round fired, and there's the slide lock right there. Pretty easy to get to. Doesn't ride in a bad spot. I'm not getting false locks. I'm not riding it with my thumb, keeping the gun from locking open. The slide serration's fairly shallow, not very aggressive. And you will notice it has a long extractor on the slide, much longer than the really short one that's on the Makarov. The ergonomics are European. I mean, it kind of has that nose down attitude when you grab a hold of the grip. It makes you want to cock your wrist up to get a proper sight picture. The recoil impulse is abrupt. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just very abrupt, but the gun stays pretty flat when you shoot it. It has a lanyard ring here, and then your magazine is a traditional European style heel release. So that's pretty much the controls of the gun. Let's do a little bit of shooting with it and see how it handles. So you just put a magazine into the gun, run the action. It's single action on that first shot unless I drop it. Let's go ahead and drop the hammer. I drop the hammer down to the safe position so the trigger's held rearward. Go ahead and then put it on fire. That trigger pops forward. And I'll shoot that first round double action. Let's see how it feels. So the double action is heavy and smooth. It's not overly heavy compared to other double action autos I've shot, but it is pretty darn smooth. It's not, you know, like chunky where it's like creep, creep, grab, hang up, pull, grab, hang up. You know, it's not like that. It's a very smooth double action, just a little bit heavy. The P64 that it replaced had a horrible double action trigger pull. All right, now let's see how that single action feels. So it has a very light release, not much on the reset. So it has a decent reset, audible reset, and decent trigger pull. It's mushy, it's very light. For a military service handgun, it's not horrible. It's not the best trigger I've ever felt, but it's not horrible. It's certainly something you can work with. So as you could probably see in the video, the handgun stays very flat when you shoot it. There's not a whole lot of recoil. and it's fairly thin. Again, going back to that concealed carry option, it wouldn't make a bad little handgun with 9 rounds, the 9x18. I'd feel pretty comfortable carrying this thing. I've carried Makarovs before. I like carrying those handguns. They're probably one of my favorite military service handguns of all time. And for the price point, you know, this is a neat little alternative. Let's disassemble the P83 and see how it compares to its Russian Makarov counterpart. Now, this is one of my mini Makarovs. This is a Russian gun. It has the target sights on it. It was made specifically for export. This one is wearing the Dozer grips, which gives you an American-style magazine release. It doesn't require any permanent modifications to the gun. You just hit this release by pushing down on it with your thumb, and the magazine drops free of the gun. These grips are available online. I think I picked these up off of eBay, and they do ship out of Russia directly to your doorstep. All right, so first let's take the Mak apart and show you what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and make sure the weapon's safe. I'm going to drop the magazine out of the gun, check that chamber. And now for the Mak, you're going to pull down on the trigger guard, much like a Walther PP. And then you're just going to pull rearward with the slide, lift it up, and take it off the frame of the gun. And the recoil spring just fits over the barrel. Put it back together, just reverse the process. Put your trigger guard back up, safety on, and the Mak is reassembled. All right, so the P83, we're gonna go ahead and make sure that it's empty. I'm gonna go ahead and cock it, drop the magazine out, check the chamber, make sure that it's empty. And now I can pull down this little takedown block right here in the front. See that little block that just dropped down? It's not the trigger guard, it's a block. Now I can pull the slide to the rear and lift up on it, and it'll come right off the frame just like the Makarov. Pull the spring off, put it back together, you just reverse the process. Very simple, nicely made handgun. Put it inside, pull back, drop it down, push your block back into the locked position, drop the hammer. It's kind of cold out here today, my thumbs are numb. And there you have it, guns back together. So you can definitely see the design similarities between the two handguns. Let's see how the P83 handles some Wolf 92 grain full metal jacket ball ammo. This is from our friends over at luckygunner.com. If you haven't checked them out, please do. Good folks over there. So we got some nice communist steel cased ammunition for my little formerly communist buddy here. All right, gonna go ahead and cock it, make it ready, and see how she shoots. Works pretty darn good. It's also interesting to note that this magazine has an electro pencil serial number on it, which matches my particular P83. The second magazine that came with the gun has no electro pencil marks on it, and whether or not that was done at the factory at the time of manufacture or not, I don't know. But it did come with one serial numbered magazine with the gun. Let's try another magazine of that Wolf ammo, see how she shoots. So the recoil impulse isn't much. Again, it doesn't have a whole lot of recoil, but it seems like it's delivering most of the energy right here in this part of the grip into the palm of my hand. I don't know if you can see the impression it's making. It doesn't hurt. And again, I'm not having any problems with the hammer bite that some of the other guys have reported. That's just because of my particular hand type. I don't have a lot of meat back there for it to bite into. Other than that, it's a pretty darn easy gun to shoot. The sight's hard to pick up, but that's pretty much the norm for military style handguns. Well guys, it's time to wrap things up and head home and warm up just a little bit. Yes, fall is here and the temperatures are dropping and the mosquitoes are gone, but now we have 5 months of winter to look forward to. Although I can't complain, I actually enjoy this time of year. I hope you guys enjoyed coming out and doing a little bit of shooting with me with my Polish P83 handgun and 9x18 Makarov. It's a neat little pistol, guys. It's certainly well made, it's reliable, it's robust, it's all steel. Just a fun little gun to shoot. If you're looking for a handgun that may be used for personal defense or defensive carry, and you don't have a large budget to work with, you might want to take a look at a handgun like this. I would place it above something like a High Point. It's certainly a well-made handgun, has a military pedigree. The ammunition is commonly available and is affordable for practice, and you can also pick up defensive loads from companies like Hornady, who offer their critical defense line in 9x18. If you're a military collector, don't procrastinate like I did in many cases. Pick stuff up while it's coming in the country. Again, this thing's only $219 from J&G Sales, and that's a pretty low price for a military surplus firearm that comes with a holster and 2 magazines. You know, buy it, stick it in the safe, because it's only going to go up in value. If you try to buy one of these 10 years from now or 20 years from now, you'll pay 3 or 4 times as much for them. Just get them while they're coming in the country and they're cheap. And that's me speaking from experience from over the years of collecting military surplus firearms. If you guys have any questions about anything you've seen in this video, you can ask those questions down below. I do try to stick around for the first couple of days after I post a video live to answer the questions you guys may have. Also, please swing by and check out Copper Custom. It's our online store. If you would like to support the Military Arms channel, that's the best possible way. Also, please swing by and check out full30.com. That's full30.com. We've taken all the web's best firearms content creators and brought them under one roof, and that is full30.com. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you guys soon.